As the summer winds down, I think things slow down a little bit. Travel and that sort of thing through town
Yeah.
goes down, so, yeah. Do you want me to wait until you have the feed going, or is it?
It's.
Okay, we're gonna motion to adopt the agenda presented. Council World. Delegations. Oh, look at Hannah Smith Rock.
Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. My pleasure to be here today, answer any questions you might have about the first quarter crime statistics for this past quarter. I know there was some delay in getting those released. My understanding is that they had to do some corrections at the head office level before they could put them up to us. So apologize on their behalf for that delay. If you go to the policing report community consultations, it just provides an outline of some of the things that we've been doing within the community to connect with the community. For example, meeting with some seniors groups to discuss frauds and scams, which is an issue that we continue to see in the community reported to our office, and as well connecting with the youth in town. I was just over at Epic end of last week doing a police car tour with one of our other officers, and we always enjoy getting to know the kids there and at the school as well. So now that school's back up and running today, we're going to be continuing on with our presentations to school groups, basically discussing areas of concern to the staff and students. So we'll be canvassing them to make a determination what we're going to be talking about with them this year. Just to touch on our staffing, for the first time, I think in a while, we are currently fully staffed. You'll see that in the composition table on page 7, because this was from the first quarter, it showed that we had one vacancy, but had Constable Westcott join us just this past week. So now we're fully staffed, which is great news. And hopefully we keep it that way for a long time. So Constable Westcott's going to be hopefully coming out to one of these meetings to get to meet with you all in the near future. He joins us from Red Deer Detachment. He was working on a crime reduction unit there. He's got a wealth of experience in particularly in that unit. And I understand he's getting settled into his place that he's bought with his wife, and so they're getting settled in, and we're quite happy to have him join us. So in terms of the actual crime statistics on this first page here, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that or anything else in the report.
So does anything jump out, Rob, in terms of something that's now more prevalent than it was, and reasons we find, or things kind of similar to how they have been in previous quarters?
I don't think there's been any huge changes. We still, our main drivers right now are still domestic violence, mental health calls, and crime related to drug use. So some property crime. So that hasn't changed. So I think those are still the primary ones that we're dealing with right now.
So how come a video is no good? Like if you have a feed on video, how come it's no good? Can be used?
Depends on the circumstances. So if the video has to show you know, the face of the person that has to be identifiable. If there's a particular circumstance, I guess I could maybe speak to it better with you in private, but video surveillance is an excellent tool. It just has to show the offense and show who the person is that we can identify them. So if there's challenges in those two areas, then that can be an issue with Crown.
But if you can put this video on Facebook or whatever, I don't go on there, but I mean, if you could. And 300 people recognize this guy, is that not?
Mhm. Well, you have to call someone to testify to identify the person. And Crown will want to make sure that they're satisfied that the person that's making the identification is sufficiently reliable to make that identification.
So just to follow up on that comment, I'm not sure what case or incident Councilor Crow's talking about. So you said two things. One, they have to be identifiable, and two, you would have to witness them
committing the
actually
offense.
committing the offense.
Yeah,
So if it was on theft from somebody's property and you had a video of them on that property, but not in possession of the stolen items or anything showing them taking that, their only offense, and whether it's an offense, it would be trespassing potentially.
yeah. So if the video showed, for example, I'm just coming up with a hypothetical,
Yeah.
them walking across the front yard. You know, that would indicate that that person's been there, but doesn't mean that they broke into the shed that occurred
Yeah.
that day. But again, I don't know the specific circumstance, but if there is any question about a particular one, then I can look at the case, and because we want to forward charges on any individual that we can that we think is responsible. There's never a case where we don't, but we just have to make sure that there's sufficient evidence. Sometimes we think that there is sufficient evidence, and then we forward it to Crown, and they determine that there isn't anyway. So that we have our bar that we feel like we have to meet, and then sometimes they feel like there's another level that has to be met in court. So
I know with that cable theft at my shop a few years ago. Videos, we had the guy picture, on the camera carrying the product. And actually, a lady in Red Deer identified him, it was crime of the week or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
And she called and told me who it was and stuff, and I just forwarded that on, and he was actually trying to do this surveillance.
Mhm. Yeah, there's lots of times where it does work. And sometimes we'll get video surveillance. Nobody knows who the person is, and then we'll forward it to our crime intel person in Airdrie. They'll fan it out to a number of different detachments, and then an officer from some other jurisdiction will say, hey, I know
Hey, I know
that
that
guy.
guy.
Or like the probation officer in Drumheller will say, that's my client. So they'll recognize him that way. So video quality can often be a big hurdle, like to say, yeah, that's definitely such and such person. Like, you know, there's so many times where we're like, yeah, we think that that's him and that's how he walks, and you know, he wears clothes like that or something like that, but it's not enough to secure conviction with. So I know it's frustrating though, when it seems like there's enough there.
So in the last couple of months, on one of the famous back alleys, infamous, I guess, a family member called, not the 911, but just the office, because it's not an emergency, but they have people passed out from drugs in the back alley behind their home. The car's running, they're in the seat, they're out.
Mhm.
Call within an hour, the person wakes up and drives off, and no police ever arrive. And it's really disheartening for a family with young children that it's not even considered an issue and no one even comes, and then they drive off and you know that there's something wrong with them.
Mhm.
Is it not a crime to be behind the wheel of a vehicle running and no longer functioning as a human being? Or is that something
Yeah,
that's?
if they're impaired by drugs, and they're behind the wheel, it's certainly if it's running as well, then that will be an offense. I don't. I'm not sure about that particular file, if, is there like an hour, the police never came at all?
No. No, no, not at all. And it's disheartening because that's what we're told we're supposed to do.
Yeah,
And that's what he does and nothing happens. So I promised I'd at least ask you, is it because I thought maybe you were understaffed, but you have full staff?
Mhm.
I don't know what they're supposed to do. The first time they had actually called 911. The second time they just called the office and spoke to your staff member because nothing happened the first time and nothing happened the second time.
when was that?
July, it's in July, so.
If I could, maybe this is a more appropriate conversation offline. I could try and drill down a specific like time or a complainant,
Okay,
because then I can look up and find out the reason why, because I would like to know, because that would be something that I would expect that we would attend. I mean, that's,
and that house is now burned, the one in the back alley, so I understand most of those users moved a couple houses over.
Mhm.
So it's not as close to him anymore as it was, but it's just. It feels like we're in downtown Edmonton sometimes in some of these back alleys,
yeah,
where the guys riding on their bicycles and. They're holding a whippersnapper. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Why? So you know that there's something going on and it's certainly a concern for a lot of residents.
yeah,
Because, or there's thefts happening and a lot, as you can see, a 220% increase in person crime and the property crimes up. Some people are feeling really
Yeah.
unsafe. And if the security camera doesn't work, we're not allowed to shoot them. We already know that. What do we do to protect ourselves from this incredible rise in, and those are the property crimes, by the way, that have been reported. And some people don't even bother to report them because nothing happens, right? So,
When it comes, I mean, as long as the police aren't gonna do something about it, vigilante can take over.
right, which is a
You know?
bigger concern.
well,
That's not a good deal.
No,
certainly I had no issue with people being proactive if they feel like they need to intervene in a crime in progress on their property. That's not vigilantism, that's lawful property owner activity if they need to do that. Vigilantism is defined as going and beating somebody up after the fact because they think that they stole their weed whacker, right? That I would have an issue with, obviously. But certainly there's a number of things that can be done, securing property, locking up our property is one of them, and I don't like to put it on the property owner, but I know even for myself, I have to make sure that I make sure all my vehicles are locked when I go to bed at night. I lock up my shed, because those are easy steps that I know that I can take to make sure that people don't open up my car door. I mean, last year I was pulling into my driveway and somebody was trying to open the door of my truck, but they were just, they were on drugs, so they're no longer here, but me intervening on that, there's nothing wrong with that because I'm the owner of the property and I can, if I feel comfortable stopping it, I can do that, but there's risks to that too. But I don't want to dissuade citizens from intervening if they feel that it's necessary. But as far as the property crime goes, I mean, I think we've made some pretty good strides with some of our prolific offenders. We arrested somebody for possession of a stolen vehicle just yesterday. Somebody that we've dealt with on a number of occasions with stolen property, and we keep putting them in front of the courts and hopefully the courts gets the message, so. But if I could, because I know I do want to get the information on that vehicle that you're talking about in the alley. If you can send that to me, I will take a look at that. Maybe there was circumstances, maybe the officers were at another call. It's hard to say, because I can't recall the specific situation off the top of my head, but I review all the files that come across our desk, so to speak, so
thank you. I'll get that to you. Thank you so much.
thanks.
Yeah, I have comments. about that as well, about people, traffic at the middle of the night or expected hours and that sort of thing carrying on. And it is a concern for a lot of people and getting to be more so since that fire and the redisbursement of the individuals that may have been in it and things still seem to be going on. And I can understand your frustration, doing the same thing over and over again and just not having the court response and that sort of thing, but it is a concern.
I'm not sure if Chief Mole spoke to everyone about the circumstances of that fire. But essentially it's at this time it appears that it wasn't criminal. Unfortunately, it was an accidental fire, but still very concerning to everybody in the community, especially everyone around that residence. So I think we're trying to work with bylaw as well to make sure that if there's anything that we can do on the bylaw end of things, that we use those avenues available to us as well to get people moving along where we can.
Thank you.
I have a question that's not really related to our community, but I got this email this morning. It was very concerning because it's so close to Hannah, but Brooks has had some incidents, beheading incidents. And I don't know if you are familiar with this or if this is just a cry out from the public that there is no police interaction or follow up on what's been happening there.
Can you describe the beheadings for me?
Yeah, people,
Okay.
yeah, of a certain nationality and just, there was one incident in particular. And
Okay.
it was very recent. And, yeah, I don't have graphic pictures. I just have some information on it. I was just it was just kind of a cry out from a community member. And I just kind of was wondering if you actually even knew about it in this detachment.
No, I haven't heard about any beheadings.
It's pretty shocking, actually, just to hear this. And I was thinking, wow, this is pretty close to home. So I was just curious to know if you,
Does that hit the news?
I'm not sure if it did. I can share what I have with you, but, or I think I can.
Okay.
I mean, some of the, yeah, the way it's presented, I can't just copy and paste it out. But yeah, it's just, I was kind of a little bit shocked and I'm like, I wonder how far spread this is that, other detachments, but these individuals are saying there's been no police interaction. They haven't stepped in yet. So of course, there is concern in the community about that. So I'm just curious to know if you even had heard about it. So.
Well, no, I mean, with something like a beheading, obviously, then we're talking about murder, so,
Yes, of course.
that would be the full weight of the major crime investigation team. I would think that would have a lot of attention to it, so,
Media and
and then the media too,
Mhm.
yeah. I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah. It's, kind of,
on another note,
Yeah.
like traffic, I see we're down 48%.
Mm.
Just everybody's doing good or just not
Um,
focused on tied up with other things.
no, we're trying to fly the flag and be present and.
Yeah.
We still have some problematic driving in the community for sure. I don't want to pretend that we don't, but we are working hard to keep speeds down and keep people responsible in their driving. Weather's a bit better too, obviously, April 1st onwards, so,
Yeah, everybody's a little spry, risky.
yeah.
and do you think after the incident that we had in our community, that has a bit of an effect? It kind of has a cooling effect. Unfortunately, we have had a really serious accident that has affected, a lot of our students and individuals throughout the community. I think sometimes after those incidents happen,
It's possible,
I just kind of think sometimes unfortunately, there's an awareness that comes.
yeah. Yeah, very sad situation.
Yes, for sure.
Any other questions for all? Hearing none. Rob, any questions for us? Things you'd like to see, anything else with?
I don't think so. I will, I'll get back to Council Murphy on that, and if it's something that, you know, you wanna, share with the council, I have no problem with that, so.
And thank you for your work in our community. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
Not always good at it, but I try.
It was actually interesting. I talked to Kyle about the crime reduction a little bit and some of the stats that he looked into for Hannah in the area and he's definitely got a lot of enthusiasm as to what can be done and how to go about doing it. So pretty interesting just to have a stop and shop, pick up a person and then have a conversation. So.
And I think too, having the additional officer as well, that allows us to take on more proactive projects and also expand our hours too. You know, where we're on the road proactively, so.
When you cover such a big area, that's the challenge. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Get a motion from council to thank. Sergeant Rob Rosman, OIC, having a job for presentation this 2023 first quarter, April to June 2023. And updated attachment, Council Kroll. Gonna pass out with his arm up in there. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
Public presentation. None. Mr. Neal.
I'll just kind of go through my report, Mr. Mayor, and certainly prepared to answer any questions. First part, basically, I think, we know it's first day school. A lot of our summer stuff has wound down, so the pool was closed on Sunday to the public. We had the dog swim on Monday. Staff have begun the process of winterizing the pool. Foxley Park continues to be, especially the full service sites have been full and occupied. Arena's almost ready or is ready for rodeo. I know they focused last weekend, the volunteers to get it set up. So the rodeo will be in a couple of weeks, 15th and 16th. And then following that, the rummage sale the Saturday after the 23rd, and then we'll begin the process of making ice as soon as we can after that. Curling rink, again, farmers markets, a few more of them till the 13th of September. We did, the young man I had talked to council about before did hold a very successful ball hockey tournament on August 5th. It was good to see a good number of teams and a lot of fans out watching, and heard a lot of positive comments around that. Fall fair was held in the curling rink. Spray park, just for your info, and we've had a, knock on wood, we've had a very good year there in terms of it operating well, not working, not functioning. It's worked very well. We are looking to shut it down the week after, so after the not the long weekend, but the weekend after. So the week of the 11th, we'll want to start shutting it down. So
Mr. Neal, when it comes to the spray park, which is again, fantastic, lots of birthday parties.
yeah,
The two picnic tables that are there, I don't know what discount bin they were purchased at, but both of them have caved in the middle. And we're not talking about a 500-pound person sitting on them. No one can sit in the middle where the whole bench sits down.
so
because
when you say the picnic table, you mean the top part where the seating area is?
the seating on the two picnic tables, they're made out of a plastic.
Yeah.
And it's so hot that I think they just soften.
Yeah.
So people end up sitting on the ground. And
Okay.
I'm just wondering, perhaps if we could have, first of all, one more picnic table. Sometimes there's a lineup of birthday parties and not enough picnic tables, and perhaps improving the quality of them, because they're
Yeah, I
really hard
hadn't,
to
I
see.
hadn't heard that. I haven't been out and looked at it. I do know when we opened it, I do know that we did buy a couple of recycled plastic picnic tables as a, new thing. Plastic, not gonna not gonna come apart like wood and eventually be replaced and painting and all that, but maybe
They did not
they didn't
last.
perform the way they
No.
were supposed to, but that's the first that I've heard of it, but
I had a few people actually mention it to
Okay.
me while I was there, but my grandkids have their birthday parties there and it's great, but you cannot you can't have three human beings sitting on one side or either side of the picnic table because the middle part just bows so much.
oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's just, they're just not very good. for it.
There's brace or something.
Yeah.
Could be, you know, installed or whatever.
Underneath the middle, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that would help.
Okay, no, we'll certainly take a look at that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so we will close, it will be closed prior to the rodeo, so. Just if you guys are up at the triplex, so we do have the memorial benches in for John Henry. I don't know if the plaques have been installed yet, but the benches are up. Generally, things obviously have slowed down in terms of grass and stuff like that, so we're basically in the process of closing things up for winter in terms of blowing out irrigation, all those types of things, getting ready for rodeo and the transition to ice. So that's kind of where we're at. We've been doing some trimming. We've had some contractors doing some tree removal and trimming. So that's been ongoing. Epic Adventures finished last Friday. And Music in the Park had their last performance on Sunday, the 27th. Commercial Kitchen. So the consultant was out on August 23rd and he did a look at community center kitchen. So they will be providing a conceptual design and concept estimate for that space, and then we'll evaluate that when we get that. In terms of staffing, all our secondary and post-secondary students are finished. Pool staff might be there still today, just doing some finishing up and cleaning up and putting everything away for the winter. But other than that, all of our secondary and post-secondary students are done. We still do have a few longer-term seasonal that are working in parks, and we'll work in parks until the end of September-ish, so. Seniors amenity zone, I wasn't out yesterday. I don't know if the benches are installed. Okay, the bollards.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to be doing that, but I didn't get a chance yesterday to go out and see if that was done. So we're winding that project up. The only thing that will be left then, if the benches are installed and the bollards, the bike rack is, they delivered 10 green ash trees to the shop on Monday too, so we have to plant them ourselves, so we're looking at where we'll plant them, and I think probably talking to Kevin and Pam, probably 5 or 6 of them will probably go in the Canada Gray pocket park there, because we did remove a number of dead trees out of there this spring, so we're looking at that, and then we're looking potentially along the new trail we put in along Palliser. The challenge there is it's very convoluted with water lines, sewer lines, gas lines, telus lines, so it's not necessarily the ideal place to put some, but we're gonna see how that goes. So that should be wrapping up here right away. Airport runway, so the bases are all in, all ready to go. They're just waiting for the delivery of the lights. And I know originally they were scheduled to do that work in September, had an opening. When we talked to them at the startup meeting in June, they kind of indicated, I can't remember, it was a 12 to 16 week delivery for the lights. So September was, they thought timing was going to be okay for. If the lights are delayed, they've indicated to us they can put the old lights back up on with the new system and use them until the new lights come in. So the impact to us right now basically is that we don't have any lights, runway lights at night. So the NOTAM that we put on with the NavCam, basically, when pilots are to call prior to their flight, will indicate that the runway lights are unusable and that there is construction in the area. So they are, then know that if they need the lights, they're not gonna land there. And B, if the construction that's taking place for the runway lights is off the runway, but just in case there notice people around there when they're landing or taking off, that they don't get shocked that all of a sudden there's people there. So I haven't heard a date yet of completion, but hopefully it will be soon. The downtown redevelopment project, so Sarah from MP was out yesterday. So we met with about 12 of our downtown businesses yesterday, just talking to them about the project, answering questions they might have in regards to the process, timelines. Got some comments from a few people. That example would be they have a step into their building from the sidewalk. Would it be possible when the new sidewalks were going in that there be a feather off of that to put a small ramp in or make it easier? So those something that we took note of and we'll take more note of other places. A few little things like that people said, well, if you're doing this work, can you do this at the same time?
Was there a better timeline for actual storefront access?
Well, yeah, I learned some from Sarah yesterday in terms of the process. Their process that they're looking at is basically to do one block at a time. So they won't have both blocks shut down. They'll shut down one block, complete that block, then move on to the second block. Timelines are always a challenge. Normal, decent, average weather, no surprises. We're looking 6 weeks per block. But that's pretty much things go according to plan. So we're hoping for the best, but it could be 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 10, who knows? Might be the year that we get rain every other day.
And is that, in that 6 weeks, what's the level of no sidewalk access?
So the sidewalk access for the most part will be available 95 to 100% of the time. The challenge for, I know our retail businesses and their concerns, or even some of our service businesses, is just the convenience of their customers being able to park immediately in front of their business. And some delivery. A lot of people, every business is different. Some businesses have deliveries, but they're lawyer letter stuff. They're not worried about it. Some businesses have larger things that have to be dealt with in a different manner. So there's more challenges with with those particular businesses. But so like I said, we met with 12 yesterday. Obviously there's some concerns on impact to businesses, primarily more on the retail side. The service, for the most part, they're good to go and didn't have many concerns or many issues. Just wanted clarification. So when we get closer, we'll definitely have timeframes, but what Sarah has estimated, typical block would be, around 6 weeks, would be the initial estimate. But, as we've said before, we can't control the weather and we can't control what we might find underground, that may cause maybe some surprises. So it's hard for us to come out and say to anybody that it's going to be this period of time. This is the period of time if everything goes the way it should go. But so I think for I think for some businesses that certainly did help when they heard 6 weeks, 8 weeks versus 4 months. But still there is concern from primarily the retail in terms of what impact it may have on their businesses. And they all of them, I think, or most of them agree that it will be a nice thing to be done and to be completed. They're just unsure of the effect it's going to have on them and their livelihoods while it's happening.
And so
So,
this, sorry,
Yeah.
so this 6 week period would be where the entire block is ripped up, or is it graduated?
no, basically, the 6 week period will be the road work, the road will be fenced off, not accessible. So whether it's ripped up or not, they'll be having equipment in and out and stuff like that. So it'll be, when I use the word 6 weeks, the road is closed off for 6 weeks. The sidewalks are still open, still available, still accessible, but there will be some juggling and some times when they are tearing the sidewalk out, re-pouring the sidewalk, that it will be certainly even more challenge, but the challenge will be to put some temporary wood sidewalks in. There is potential to, once the road is done and complete and compacted to gravel before they pave and working sidewalks, they can have people walk on the gravel on the road, and they'll put a bridge ramp across the sidewalk while it's being completed. So there's a number of tricks and stuff that can be used, but that's kind of the most up-to-date info that we have. So, and if there is, we weren't able to meet with all the businesses. We focused on the ones that filled out the questionnaire through the information package, who had said they requested the meeting. But if others in the interim, I know we talked to a couple of businesses yesterday that said, well, I haven't even read that yet. We'll certainly, Sarah will come back to meet one-on-one and answer any of the technical questions. I learned a fair bit through the process yesterday too, so I think I can probably deal with some of the questions as well. So that's where that's at.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
so do we know that, like, when they're gonna start this project? Do we know?
Well, again, as I told the businesses we talked to and through the package, so the process right now is I'm just working with Prairie's Can on finalization of the grant and all the information they need. It should be done here shortly, and in they're gonna take 3-4 months to go through it, to make sure it meets their criteria, meets all the regulations, everything's good in that regard. So we're hoping by the end of the year, we'll have a response, whether it's yay or nay on the funding. And then the process would be, the next step would be, we would then go out to tender. So that's probably gonna take us to mid-February, end of February, in terms of when we get all of the bids back in. And decision, go, no go from council will be, if the project comes within the budget parameters, council, it's not as big a decision, but if for whatever reason, the tenders come in $1 million or $2 million over what we've estimated, then council will have to, consider that, because the grant that comes from the feds has an infinite amount. It's not 75% of whatever the total project cost would be. It's basically works out to about 75% of what the estimated project is. So there's approximately $4 million is what we are hoping to get through this. So right now, the estimates are that it's around $5.5 million. So we would put in 1.5 we would get 4 from Curry's Can. But if the dynamics change on that project and the project is 7.5, we're still only getting 4 from Prairie's Can, and we would be responsible for the remaining 3.5, and that's where council will have to have a discussion and make a decision on if they want to proceed and where we get the remaining dollars from to do that project, so. So, any further questions on downtown project? Okay, and then just the last thing, just for Visitor Information Center. We have discussions with Mark. We will be closing the VIC Monday, September 4th. I don't have, we were worried would be a comment because there was no Canada Summer Jobs funding received for the staff there. Little relieved. I did talk to Mark on Monday. I think the financials on the operation of the VIC to around mid-August indicated that they were about $11,000 in the hole. So not as much as I thought.
I'm not buying any more ice cream.
You know, well, you could.
You should buy more.
So I was a little worried that number was gonna be higher. And we're on the responsible for that shortfall, so Mark believes you know, it shouldn't be much more than 11, depending on the last couple of weeks, so I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything from anybody in terms of whether it's you know, it's Mark's first year there, and I don't know, I haven't seen the numbers, so I can't compare in terms of whether their volume of sales is higher than.
It looks
Previous
busier
years.
compared to previous, just
Okay.
based on, maybe
Yeah.
I'm across the road.
Yeah.
but It looks like we're having more traffic during the day, like from that 1 o'clock till 4:30, when I haven't quite paying attention. But there seems to be somebody there just about all the time, so.
Okay, yeah, the other thing too, just for council's info, so last week, we had an issue at our main lift station. So the discharge pipe was leaking. We're concerned, that's our main lift station, so if the discharge pipe blows or doesn't work, the wet well will just fill up and we've got no ability to discharge it, so.
Sounds disgusting.
Yes, the guys are very good, got on it right away. We were fortunate, MP gave us some contacts for contractors in the field. We were able to get a contractor out right away, looked at it. We originally thought there might have been a hole in the pipe, but it was just the fact that the coupling was loose and it was loose at the joint, and that's where the water was escaping from. But so we had a contractor out basically for a day. One of the challenges was we had to set up a bypass because the sewer water is still coming in no matter what. So we had to set up a bypass pump, which then we were able to tie it directly into the lift station. So it wasn't even a bypass pump going out into a manhole or anything. It was tied right into the lift station. And then that would keep the flow low in the wet well low enough that they could go in and make the repair. So they did get it repaired in a day and moving forward, but was happy that we were able to get it repaired as soon as we could before anything serious happens. So, but other than that, for the most part, I think we've had a good summer. Everything's ran relatively smooth, been able to accomplish most of the stuff that we needed to get accomplished. Certainly, I would have liked to had more rain like everybody else and had things greener the guys have shut down the irrigation systems, so you know, because that's a costly expense, potable water. So as soon as ball was done, as soon as soccer was done, we started to slow those down, and now we've shut them off. So So other than that, if there's any questions on anything, I'll do my best to answer them. Yeah, Bert?
Some of the questions I've been having is because of the lack of rain. And some of the cities, you know, with the water situations, like now they're being cut back. Some of them are wondering what the town is looking at for next year with the forecast. You know, are we going to wait or are we going to put a plan ahead, you know, to have something in plan for cutbacks on watering?
So I'm gonna attempt, Mr. Mayor, and I know you're on Henry Kruger, you can probably answer it as well. So the share Henry Kruger is allocated out of the Red Deer River. We are never anywhere near our maximum. So when I
48%.
when I talk to the water treatment plant, they will fill their reservoir up in the spring once the rivers have slowed down and there's not as much turbidity in the water. They'll fill it up, and when we have that reservoir full, we've got ample water. Unless something changes in the forecast for the Red Deer River, I don't think we are impacted. And I say this, and I don't say it flippantly that it doesn't matter, but I know that we get our, the water treatment plant does allocate out of their $3 per cubic meter charge, a large portion of that to their capital upgrades. So Garth has not indicated, Henry Kruger has not indicated to any of its member municipalities that they're concerned about reservoir, concerned about level of water. So we have not put in any restrictions. I would guess if something next spring happened and the Red Deer River was different levels and the province cut back our allocation, although as the mayor said, we're significantly under that, then we might have to look at putting in restrictions in the following years. But I don't know if there's anything else, Danny, but
Yeah, RMUG, so Red Deer River Municipal Users Group, hired a company called Water Smart, and what they've done is they have analyzed the flow of the river back, I believe it's 30 years. And what they've done is they've actually stacked the worst 3 years back to back to back. And even if they went 3 years back to back to back, the allocations that are spoken for, we would still maintain even if we had 3 years back to back to back. So as I said, the town right now, Henry Kruger's at about 48% of their allocation. So we're still fine. We're also with the provincial level, we're how do I word this? We're obligated Saskatchewan, and I'm going to use simple figures. I'm going to say X. Right now, we're giving them 5 X's instead of just 1. So there's a lot of water still going to Saskatchewan that we don't have to let go of. Worst case scenario, we can hoard it and keep it here. So water is a huge issue, and talking to some of the people down in the States and Colorado and places like that, their water is running out. So yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but I think we're okay for now.
Yes, they're just looking at, you know, all this excess watering of all our green spaces, you know, it's which is more important to have water to drink or let's have green grass. Big problem, you know, and overwatering, like having it run down the streets, that's what their big issues are. And I see it, you know, some of this property, there's more water on the streets running into the sewers and that's something I think that we should look at anyway.
I happen to agree with you, Councillor Thoreau. Whether we are in a good situation or not, I think just the optics and being accountable and responsible enough to be, mindful of water that is wasted. I don't know that I don't think there's any wrong time to start being a little bit mindful of of that situation, are green spaces, are they watered excessively? I don't know, but I think everybody appreciates the green spaces, but not necessarily the waste that is seen when people end up watering their sidewalks and such. So I don't think it's ever a bad time to start maybe putting it out there that people could be conscious of it, regardless of if we're at 48% or not, you know, so.
So I'm just curious, this water running down the street, is this public property? Is this public sprinkler systems? Is this private property? Like, I'm not understanding this.
It's a little of both,
I've seen private,
yeah.
a particular restaurant that I think their line, it doesn't line up to mostly the grass, but I guess they're paying the bill, but
Yeah.
but still, I don't know that, I doubt it is town.
I don't know for us, and again, irrigations are irrigations and our systems, most of ours are older systems. I know when we look at Hector King Hunter Park, we have some, you know, that's an old system that was put in by the association, you know, 40, 50 years ago, and they've got some steel pipe under there. They've got whatever they used back then. So we're trying to upgrade that and have a little bit more control over it. But if anybody notices that we are overspraying onto a road, sometimes you have, if it's hit and miss, sometimes it might be the wind that's happening at that point in time. But if it's consistently the same, you know, let us know and we can look at adjusting where the heads are spraying. So.
And if I can just speak to that, just in my own personal, you know, experience, like in my own yard, you know, if you keep up on the watering at a minimal. I mean, my sprinkler systems are all underground. They don't go every day, but they do go every 3 days for a minimal amount of 20 minutes in the morning, and they circulate through the whole yard, which keeps my yard green enough throughout the summer, even in the hot, you know, months. You know, as long as you're keeping up on it from the beginning of excess watering, it's when I let it go and haven't turned it on,
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
you
Like,
know, but as long as you're keeping up, so I don't have a problem if we're doing, you know, even in our public spaces, if you keep up on it, it's when you let it go. And then you have to try to catch up. I think that's where you're using a lot more water.
Like I know I was in Music in the Park. I've been attending that regularly, and everybody has come up and say they tell council that they want to continue. And it's sure been nice to be able to walk on the grass that is green, and I don't water mine at home at all, and it's crunchy and stuff. But and I don't know, like I don't think, I really have no idea really if it's in excess. I think the town probably is mindful of how much they do water. I know that the flowers and everything around is done individually and is very appreciated by a lot of residents for how well it does look in the area. Because downtown, it really is kind of a drab. I've heard people say that they had somebody come in from outside the area, they drove downtown and it looked awful. You know, weeds growing up along businesses and sidewalks and stuff, and you know, some empty buildings and things. So I think at least if some of the flower pots are maintained, which they are and very well done, I think it maybe can kind of offset some of that negativity that is seen by people that don't really like our downtown, just the way it looks at the moment, so.
Yeah, excessive is, I guess, the word is a difficult word. You know, I think the areas that we do irrigate, we've kept look good. I don't think they look overly lush. But when I say that, I'm thinking off the top of my head. So we've got systems in Memorial Park. We've got systems in RCMP Park, Hector King Hunter Park, all our ball diamonds, well, not all our ball diamonds, but the triplex. And we've got soccer fields, the Doug Todd Memorial Park. Those are some that jump off to mind for me. The one that I and Kevin and I have a discussion about often is the L. So what we call the L, Fox Lake Palliser, L that comes from Third Street down and then up to 12th, is irrigated. That's a large space. So it's not what I would call, excellent lush grass. But Kevin's argument to me all the time is that, well, part of the purpose that we're irrigating too is the trees. So, and in all of those parks, we have trees too, that's, you know, it's not just the grass, it's trying to keep the trees healthy and, you know, as well, so as best we can, so. But it is, don't get me wrong, it is expensive when we get our water bill, the town water bill, for those areas, so.
I know the irrigation's gotten better over the years because the L, as you call it, used to have excessive puddling after watering. Now there's no puddles.
Yeah, we try our best, but again, $3 a cubic meter, we pay the same as everybody else does, so. So,
Well, and if there is, you know, maybe turn it down a notch or something, maybe every little bit would help with the expenses as well as water consumption and preservation and such.
yeah, it's a tough balance, but so. Any other questions, comments?
Just in regards to your presentation, I had a few concerns with, the dog swim. People love it and more want to participate in it. And unfortunately, I understand that it happened during the daytime hours, which, and I'm not sure because I didn't look into seeing, but this is what I was told. And unfortunately, it eliminated a bunch of people that would have liked to participate in it. So I don't know if this is traditionally what they do, is have it during the day. Like these people talked about, like we have to work during these times, so we can't just.
So,
So that we sacrifice a full day that people can swim, right? Then we lose the Sunday.
Or extend the hours of the.
yeah,
So
I guess one of the options could be, so Councilor Work, this was the second year we've done it.
Right, yeah.
So last year was the very first time we did it, and we were a
2
little,
hours or. an
we were a
hour?
little apprehensive last year. We had some public people actually rent the pool because they weren't sure about, you know, and this just invited their friends who had dogs that they
Yeah.
participated with. So we did that, and then we opened it up for 2 more hours again. But again, the timing was between 10 and 2. This year we opened it up from 10 to 4. I don't know, again, trying different things. I don't know if it was the best. I don't know. I haven't heard the final numbers on it, but I know when it was 10 to 2, it was a smaller window, so you had more dogs there at one time. 10 to 4, it seemed to spread them out a bit, which might have been good too. You don't have 40 dogs running around there. But I do think that that's a valid concern, Councilor Work, so it's something we can look at for next year.
Yeah.
In terms of running, what it would mean is maybe we start, maybe we do it a couple of times. We do it in the around noon hour, and then we do one in the evening. It's something we could
5 till
probably
7 or
try, for those who can't get away from work. Certainly something we can look at.
Just, I
Yeah.
had a few people just
Yeah.
approach me about it. The other thing I just wanted to mention here, I know you did mention here in your report, is the cornhole tournament that was put on by Tanner, the president of the curling club. It was well attended and it was very successful. I had the opportunity to be there. It was a ton of fun. It's absolutely for all ages, doesn't matter if you're young or elderly. It was an easy opportunity for you to just be able to throw the beanbag. But anyhow, I just want to say it was a huge success
Yeah.
and well attended. And I hope in the years to come, it will even grow with people that would be interested in participating in it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend. I was in the 2-person golf tournament the same day, so unfortunately it was both at the same time, but I
Which
had,
Tanner and I already talked about for next year.
how do you make sure you're not on the same day?
Yeah, yeah, we line ours up in March, so it's pretty easy for him to schedule after
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad I heard some things about it, but I didn't hear a ton. I knew they had a significant number of teams participating, which was good.
It might have been good that it was on the same day because they had, of course, they had 18 boards. And they had enough people to participating, so, but anyhow, more is better. I think it was
Absolutely.
well attended
Yeah.
and it was a success story. So,
Good.
yeah.
Anything else? Sign report.
I'm gonna let Lori, walk you through this. No, yes, no?
Go ahead. I'll
Okay.
interject.
You interject? Okay. So I think council knows the background. So during our budget process, council made a decision not to replace the electronic components of the west entrance sign, electronic message center. So, we did talk and we have, talked about, especially with the removal of, with the new entrance signs and not having Home of Nickelback on them, that might be an opportunity to, put something in reference to that there. So, we do have, we have reached out to a couple of locals, businesses. We did reach out to High Signs. We did reach out, or will be reaching out to another local business just to get some costs and some quotes on replacing that on the electronic sign. So as Lori said, we wanted to refer to, and I can't remember how to find the wording. So it's not the proud home of Nickelback. It would be proud to be the home of Nickelback is kind of the message we want on there. There's also at the same time, now there's been some discussion, and actually there's going to be a meeting this afternoon with some town staff, with Harvest Sky, with a couple of local citizens at large, Mayor Plavschuk, just to talk about what maybe further we could do, capitalizing on the murals that we have of Nickelback and how we can get people into town more and deal with that. We haven't pushed it much, but Mark has had some conversations with their representatives in terms of copyright, in terms of any of those things, and they seem to be on board.
Yeah.
So
Friday, I had a text from their lawyer. Letting me know that Chad and Ryan were looking to get a hold of me, and I went, okay. And so about 10 minutes later, I get a text from Chad and told me to call him. So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit giddy like a little girl. And so Chad and Ryan are on the phone, and basically they've been following what's been going on with the media and stuff, and they wanted to know what we were doing, and they wanted to hear it from me, I guess, more than anything. So I said to them as well, we do not hate Nickelback. No, he said, I know that. He said, just what's the plan? I said, well, the electric sign. I said, we're looking at putting the Home of Nickelback there, getting the traffic off the highway and into town. And then I mentioned to him, because I had a conversation with Mark a little bit about a QR code map, and forgive me for my lack of knowledge, but apparently you take that picture of the QR code and it'll play Home of Nickelback, and they play a song or whatever, and then it'll refer you to the next QR code and where it's located at. So I talked to them a little bit about that. They'd actually offered to, if we weren't moving ahead, they were looking at putting a Home of Nickelback sign at the Burger Baron. Because they're very fond of the Burger Baron. So I said, well, right at this point in time, I said, let's just kind of play this out. So I got a hold of Mark immediately and said, you need to step this up a little bit. And so in the conversation, I mentioned to Chad, one of the ideas we had was to maybe have you voice over some of the, instructions. Love to, he said. So, okay, well, that was easy. Same thing, and it was kind of weird because he told me not to lose his number, and if there's anything on this project that they could help us with, to get a hold of him. So I've got the number and so on and so forth. Like I said, we're gonna meet up this afternoon, and there's some different ideas and stuff. So it's gonna be a neat project. I don't know how in depth that what Mark has in thought. I've got some ideas. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what work comes out of it. I think it'll be good. So Shouldn't cost us a whole bunch to promote a little more. I know the murals on the arena, same thing, it was interesting, that came up in the conversation and, with Chad and Ryan, they're flattered to have them there, like, there was some talk. That we were in contravention of copyright and yada, 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 and Chad and Ryan said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it if there's any problems, so that was kind of reassuring to know. And I mentioned to them that we are looking to do the next album up as well, so. It was a pretty interesting conversation, and of course, I'm looking at the clock and I remember that they had a concert that night, so I'm doing the time change and they're 20 minutes of being on stage, and I said to Chad, I said. I think we need to cut this off, and Ryan giggles a little bit and says, what time is it? I said, well, it's 20 to 7 where you're at. Yeah, we better cut it off. So, yeah, it was pretty cool to have that conversation with them. I mean, I moved here about the same time as they moved away, so I didn't get to interject a whole bunch. I know a lot of our locals have talked and know on a very personal basis, which is awesome. I've never taken advantage of that, but like I said, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of today and move forward with it, so.
So the other point of the discussion on the signage too is want to get some feedback from council on whether or not they would like to add Proud Home of Nickelback to our entrance signs, as well as the west entrance sign. So I just want some feedback from it, because that is still an option that we can add that to those 3 entrance signs if we chose to. Any,
My initial thought was, I don't think we got ahead of it enough that we weren't taking it down, we were just relocating it. My initial thought was, I thought that would be an acceptable replacement. Everybody I've talked to seems to disagree. I mean, media, take it for what it's worth, but real conversations with people, there's value to have them on there. I'm certainly not
on
opposed
the
to it.
entrance signs
Yeah.
in addition
Yeah.
to the electronic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the message, I guess this one I'll speak up about that.
Okay, yeah.
I believe it's important to have that on the entrance signs just from a couple of conversations with other people who communicate or try to market their communities that travel the north-south route. And the one fellow that I spoke to said he didn't even know all the media until he drove by and noticed, oh, Hannah has a new sign up because their community was looking at doing something similar. So he thought, I'm gonna have to phone and find out who they worked with and how it went. And then it occurred to him after he'd gone by that they also got rid of the Nickelback acknowledgement. What is wrong with them? Why would they do that? So anyways, he phoned and expressed that, and I gave him the update. It's a work in progress, and yeah, the media got ahead of it. I think it's critical to have that on the entrance signs, and I know safety has been discussed. But I'm wondering, I don't know, I still think it's really important. And then maybe the message on the message panel is something completely different. I know we spoke about it being a generic welcome message, or I don't know, so just an option, just
Yeah.
things to think about.
I've had a lot of people
Yeah.
comment on that as well, and yeah, if safety is an issue, maybe a pullout or I don't know, a parking area in front of or something to allow people to pull off and take a picture if they want. I think there's also the murals that are on the library and the parks
So, yeah,
shop as well are, I don't know that many people are aware that they are there as well, but it would be nice to have that QR code and then maybe play one of the songs from that album and lead it to that album for anybody that wants to take it in further or something to any of the other songs. But I agree. I think, they're not shy about putting Hannah on the map, and I've been to, a couple concerts, and that's one of the first things they say is, happy to be from Hannah. And I think it is, I think it is kind of key that we do put it back on.
So I just to hit join this conversation. So we're thinking of doing a whole land restructure around our signs. So we can have pullouts and all that there?
No,
Is that what we're thinking of doing?
no, I was just.
No,
thought
That was a comment from Council Bowden. Again,
Yeah.
my thought is-
About the hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
that would cost. to-
800,000 stuff.
Yeah,
Or to
so
put a
I,
gravel spot.
I don't think we, unless Nickelback has and can have.
well, there's other things too. You have to have
Yeah.
permission from
Yeah,
transportation.
like, that seems like a huge
Yeah,
undertaking
it
in
was just
my
a
opinion.
comment.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
I missed some of
comment.
the conversations prior to.
I think
no,
that,
no.
again, I think one of the options if council's, on board is we can look at putting it back on the entrance signs. I do think that it'll be interesting to see what comes from this group that's meeting and how they're gonna try and move some of this project forward, but I do think it's important we can't control people who may choose to stop on the highway and take a picture, but if there is an opportunity to have some pictures taken, in Hannah, in different locations where they're off the road.
Well, and that's my.
That's an option that we would make
And
available.
maybe that could be on the.
See, and
QR
that's what
code.
my thought process is to get them into town, so be it the west entrance sign. And I still think we should put one of the old signs down, that's to
Yeah,
information for a photo op. And then get them off the highway, get them into town, and that's kind of where I'm looking at it from. And I'm not sure what the group's gonna come up with this afternoon, but once we're in town, like I said, then the QR code and so on and so forth. I've had a lot of comments as well about leaving the signs blank, and unfortunately, that's what I'm famous for, is taking signs and making back out of it. Or monument signs, then so be it, but I've had comments both ways. In fact, it was interesting, Janelle Lowder was one of the ones that was on CBC News the same time as I was. And she phoned me that night and apologized, and she said, Danny, I said it was like a 20-minute interview, and they basically poached the part that suited what their agenda was. And I said, well, that's media, and that they had an idea in the story, and that's the parts they wanted to do, so. I'm happy with leaving the monument signs there and getting people into town. That's just my, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if any of you have ever been to Timmins, on your way into Timmins, there's a 150-foot billboard of Shania Twain. 150 feet. You can't miss it. You know, you're 40 miles to Timmins when you see Shania, because the sign's that big. And to have anyone move over a tiny little sign, I think it's very important. I'm still disgusted that Consort doesn't have Home of Katie Lane. It's incredible too. You have to have some level of understanding of the fan base. These people will fly to Calgary and drive to Hannah just to be in the presence of people that they admire. And right now, the timing of taking the sign down at the same time as they're being inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame, Canadian Music Hall of Fame, didn't do well for us at all. So we have to fix this. And having it on the entrance signs, but having a scan thing that says pictures can be done here. I still, on top of that, I would recommend a really small space, either in the visitor information center or somewhere, that has Nickelback stuff, posters, maybe one of their gold albums or something that people can go visit and really start promoting that. Because the fan base is really, it's just something, I've traveled all over the US going to places that are familiar to me from things I saw in movies and that type of thing. So people do it, and we need the income and we need people to come into town. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to do it. Absolutely.
DIC already sells T-shirts with the road crew.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're beating this to death
Yeah.
right now. There is a committee coming together. I have one question for you. Is Cam Christensen going to be involved in that meeting?
He was, Mark had reached out to him and I talked to him a little bit.
Yeah, I hope
about
he's
it.
gonna be.
Yeah.
Because I think what you guys are gonna deal with this afternoon, from what I've heard from Cam and a few of them, is gonna be way bigger than what we're talking about here.
I'm thinking
I
as well.
think there's some people behind the scenes that have some, yeah, some land usage, some, you know, and I think that's gonna come out this afternoon. So I think until all of that's put in place, I think this conversation is, yeah, doesn't have to happen until what happens with the organization, because I think some of the ideas are gonna be grand. And I think it'll be great.
Still have the right to say it. So I didn't beat anything to death. I was just making a comment.
No, I think timing wasn't good. Timing
Nope,
wasn't good.
timing
We
wasn't
weren't, and in retrospect, we could have been ahead of the game and stopped some of this, but you know, it depends who you talk to. A lot of people say any publicity is good publicity. So we'll move forward. It'll be interesting to see the discussions from this group, and what type of direction they want to move in, and we will certainly bring that information back to council, so.
And just to correct, I didn't mean that, you know, at that level, I mean, the conversations are good. I just mean there's a lot more before us with what's going on. I mean, there's been a subcommittee put in place. I think we need to hear out the subcommittee prior to.
Yeah, the subcommittee hasn't met yet,
Yeah,
so.
so, which is happening today, I understand.
Okay, and any other questions, Lori? Is there anything else? Signage?
Was there some discussion regarding so this is basically the update on the empty sign? Like
Yeah.
the electronic sign?
Yeah, our report was just the information on where we're at with the
Right.
west entrance electronic sign process. And to bring the question to council about whether or not we add to the entrance signs as well.
Yeah, so is there anything on the electronic sign?
No, not at
Just
this
the
point.
quotes that have been gathered and provided to you.
On that note of signs, apparently we have some, I'm gonna call them prop signs. They were made a couple of years ago, where you stick your face into a hole and there's a picture you taken. They're in the Parks and Rec shop that have never been put out.
For an event or.
No, just, from what I gathered, they were supposed to get towards information, moving to council, so DIC, and they've never gotten there.
I didn't know there was any date.
Okay, I'll do some more homework, it just was.
I know there was discussion about that, but I don't recall them ever being.
They're done. And they're in Parks and Rec.
Oh.
I'll do some more digging today.
Okay. I know there was discussion about that as a potential option. But I didn't know anybody. had
I don't even
made
know
this.
who paid for them,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Okay, that being said,
You need a motion to accept the
Yeah.
report.
yeah, motion to accept the signed proposal report, Counselor Olson, all in favor? Gary, anything else anybody wants to?
So I know we don't, if I may, I know we don't make a formal motion for anything, but a lot of these quotes are only good for 60 days. So what I'm hearing is this may not move very quickly, and just to go back to these people and suggest that we're not, like, nothing would come to the September council.
Oh, no, no.
So just
Okay, yeah,
Suggest
just tell them,
those-
just let them know where the process is at.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Cause I'm not sure, it's our first meeting this afternoon, so I'm not sure how quickly things are gonna proceed. I guess we'll find out a little bit more this afternoon, so.
Great.
Anything from council, any updates?
Counselor Murphy,
I volunteered at the Show and Shine in downtown. Again, the weather was horrific. And we were wet.
Horrifically hot.
No, it
Oh,
was
cold.
rain. It wasn't sprinkling, it was pouring.
I'm going with what Neil said, right? So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. He looked like a wet rat by the end of the day. But people came, it didn't matter, and there were over 55 entries from as far away as Florida. And even though the weather was terrible, and the Sunday was beautiful, I wish it had been on a different day, but it was very well received, had a blast, the kids had fun. It was, again, fantastic, and what a great way to promote the town. People actually, we know of at least 3 families that booked Fox Lake for the weekend and came out and did the fall fair, they did the parade, They went to the movie, they went to the show and shine, and they made it a weekend in Hannah and had a blast. And one of the families, their twin boys were both picked to win brand new bicycles. So it was just a great time. So it's certainly something we should promote again next year and possibly put the angle, make it a weekend. Because that's what they did and not one of them regretted it. They said they had an absolute blast. So kudos to Neil Hanford, did an amazing job with the show and shine.
That's his last year.
That's his last year. he won't
Well,
do it again.
and the other comment I'd like to thank all of the groups, volunteers. We had an incredible summer of activities. You know, from, we had the old time jamboree back in, and we had 3 provincial level ball weekends,
The drag race.
the drag races, the car show, cruise weekend, fall fair, cornhole tournament, ball hockey tournament. I don't know if there's been a weekend that there hasn't been an activity or something on in the community for people to attend. So it's been a great summer that way, and kudos to those volunteers and those groups who undertake those initiatives. Because like I said, I don't think there was a weekend that you could go, there wasn't anything happening. And like I said, sometimes we had multiple things happening that interfered with people being able to participate in both. So
Council Cole?
I'd like to comment on the drag racing. I did a tribute to my daughter. And it went over just amazing, like the announcer just, raved about her, and great, it was the best, that I could ever accept.
It was
It was
beautiful.
great, super good.
Council Bowden?
We also had the Garrett Gregory video release at the end of May, and I think one thing that I find difficult to take with comments of some people saying there's nothing in Hannah to do. And I don't know why that is, whether they can't access the information or we're not able to get it out there enough or what, but yeah, there's lots of volunteers that are struggling and they're still able to put on. We have the rodeo coming up. We're having a Western Trade Show at the Roundhouse on that Saturday. ATV's having something on a Friday and stuff. And I don't know what to do to try and get more and more people out to the events or to get it to those that could decide on attending the events or not. And hopefully with this new newspaper, the Sentinel, that some of that information will get to more and more of our residents. But yeah, there's tons of good quality information. The Music in the Park is a prime example as well. And everybody that I've seen there, I think I've missed a couple, and the music has been amazing. And most of the days have been very well. And those that are in attendance say, please tell council that we would like this to continue. And so not only is the funding provided by a grant, but they also, Glenn Snell passes a bucket around and collects some additional funds that go directly to help offset some of the expenses for the musicians coming out. So, yeah, I too want to thank all of those that are involved in putting all these events, because it is a lot of work. And some will be folding because they don't feel they're getting the attention or support from the community members in attendance or in sponsorship or things of that nature. And that will be a huge loss to our community.
Council Owen?
I'll speak on behalf of the Old Time Jamboree. We haven't had it for the last 3 years. This year was a success. Our numbers were down a bit. There was less trailers on the street because of our aging seniors. A lot of them found other accommodations, so they do not pull, 30 and 50 and 60-foot RVs around anymore. They travel to the jamborees and they stay at the local accommodations, which was so I have had a ton of calls since then, so that, you know, encouraging us to keep doing it in the following years. I also had a band by the name of Love and Country. One of their main, he contacted me at the last minute. We had a band cancel out on us about 5 days before the Jamboree. We had these guys come online from Sylvan Lake, and they came with their 7-piece band. And they were loved. They came to Hannah last week. They said we never had an opportunity to really go through Hannah. They came to the hardware store and then they called me and they said, we just want to, of course, I was busy, and they did come on site and we had a visit, and they just wanted to say thank you in person once again for inviting and how much they enjoyed being in Hannah, and they look forward to doing it again next year. So I hope that it will be, our numbers will be up next year. On a personal note, this weekend, September 1st, we have a new business opening in the town of Hannah. It is going to be the bar on Main Street, previously called the Tipsy Cow, will now be named the Nickel, because you'll want to come back. It'll be the logoing, and it will be having a soft opening on September 1st. And then, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of an upgrade in the facility. And they're gonna have the grand opening at a later date. So September 1 is going to be the first opening day of the Nickel
So
on Main
that's
Street.
Friday.
Friday night, yeah, so. Yeah.
Good.
That's great to hear.
Okay. Anything Kyle? No?
Yes, you got something. What'd you do at the golf course this time? What'd you do at the golf course this month?
So we do have a manager there now in place. He's basically what we wanted years ago. A guy that's been doing it for 27 years, managing clubhouses and golf courses. He's already put an offer in on a house. He come from Penticton. He wants somewhere for the last handful of years to, you know, a smaller golf course. He likes small towns. That's where he wants to be the last 10 years of his career, and it's, yeah, he's worked out beautifully. He showed up, we signed him up for an interview remotely. He drove down from Penticton to check out Hannah, showed up for his half-an-hour interview, toured the town, and drove back the next day. And yeah, came, I think 10 days later, started work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. His name's Rob. He's there all the time now. He's super easy to talk to.
And then tipped into Hannah.
Yeah, well, he showed up and he said, if I decide to sell my place in Penticton, I guess I'll buy 4 more houses in Hannah.
Yeah, right.
So he bought a small home already and he loves it. Yeah, and the golf course, hopefully, you know, probably start aerating in the next couple weeks, and then I think Kevin will need probably 10 days to react. So when he starts seeing weather turn, then start shutting it down. It's pretty optimistic to say it'll last to the end of September. But there's always potential for that, I think.
Survive the drought for the most part.
Yeah. There's places, a group that I talked to, there's a group of 6 seniors that showed up to camp, and they kind of toured. They did Rosetown and Hewend and Dorchester, did a bunch of spots, and they said everything is in really bad shape, far worse than Hannah. Like Rosetown, they said is brutal. It's almost the color of this table, the way they described it. And they loved it. They're midday with Caesars every day. They golfed every morning, and then the jukebox was just pumping in there. It was cool to see different groups and to hear feedback about how the Hannah course with the limited resources of, I think a lot of the year he pulled 30% of the water that he usually does.
The greens are incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible, which is the key part of the
Yeah.
golf game. They're fantastic, and I know you can tell that's where the effort has been
Yeah.
on keeping them in the condition they need to be, and yeah, fairways are a little rough, but that's.
Yeah, if you gotta sacrifice something, that's
Yeah.
the best one to recover from.
I have a question. You guys were looking at building a shop. Has that progressed? at all?
Yeah, the shop's up, cement's in now.
I'm gonna go
It's
first.
tin. You can see it if you go, if you drive
Towards the
down the
cemetery.
road.
Okay.
You can see it from in front of the apartment buildings,
Okay,
and you can see it there. You'll see the back of it.
okay. And is it big enough to accommodate all the stuff that they had?
Oh, absolutely. And the existing shop will still be used for irrigation storage, all the
Okay.
pipes,
Cold
and parts
storage,
and
yeah.
valves and.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, I didn't recall hearing. And maybe it was, and I just don't recall.
Yeah, there's no doors on it yet. Last time I was there on Monday,
Right.
but cement's in now, so that'll be a big step. So it'll be yeah, should move along and get heated for winter and
Nice.
get real working conditions for our poor
Yeah.
greenskeeper.
Yeah, especially.
What do you mean, the
used to
styrofoam
Finland.
walls are sufficient?
Yeah, not so much.
Kevin would actually put up a styrofoam wall and make a little booth that he could work in to keep himself warm. It's really creative. Anything?
Just the show and shine. I forgot to mention earlier, the only downside to it was, of course, we all got there and none of the barricades
Yeah.
were up and couldn't get a hold of anyone. And that was an hour of a bit of a mess. So there was obviously a little bit of communication
So,
issues, but that happens.
Yeah, I did talk to Neil. Neil was very happy
Oh, yes, yeah.
because when he did talk to Kevin and Megan had him there in 10 minutes, so.
They were, again, wonderful. It was just getting. a
We
hold of
dropped the
somebody.
ball. It was some that got missed by our guys.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, it was, again, everything was great. When it comes to the golf, is the clubhouse open all year?
Yeah.
It's open,
Yeah,
all-
in the winter, it's open 3 days a week for pool league,
oh, okay.
and that's about it.
And do they have lessons for people who have never outside of
There's a-
Miniplex?
Program there that Dr. Dave Warwick operates.
Oh, okay,
uh,
Dr. Dave does. it.
It's a deeply discounted range pass. It's about I think it's 70% off of a punch card.
Yep.
And it also includes 10 hours of lessons and range pass and, yeah, at the start of the year, he usually does a sign up and then he does it for 2 or 3 weeks, get people out there. It's awesome. You'll get kids, you'll get seniors, you'll get
I will probably.
everything
do
in
that.
between, and he's really good, spend some hours, because the key to operating golf course is more people, of course.
Yeah.
Expenses barely change if you double the amount of people out there golfing.
But if you just perhaps advertise that more when it's springtime that you're getting ready, because that's something.
Yeah.
You know, I have to learn how, I won't just show up and play because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, that's the hard part, I think it's always out on social media, I don't know if it's in the paper, maybe,
I've never
But-
seen it, but yeah.
well, in this spring, we were kind of limited on newspaper options.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
The Herald was kind of too, so.
Counselor Thurl?
Well, it was a busy year. We did 9 breakfasts, our elks and our egg society. We're happy with fall fair this year. And we're looking at expanding some of the different events and stuff, so. So we're getting ready for next year already with plans in our next meeting, so we're looking for new members that we had a whole bunch of the seniors step down because of the work and everything, so always looking for members, so.
So is that with the Elks or the Egg Society?
Oh. And with a few of the other groups that we belong to, but we're expanding our breakfasts, we're doing a breakfast with the rodeo this year, and that's the rodeo group, can't do a rodeo without having a pancake breakfast, so
That's awesome.
we're gonna do it right at the arena. We're going to put it outside and they're gonna feed everybody inside, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got just been doing mayor stuff.
That's nothing.
Well, it's just busy, like, it's, you know, the CBC interviews and the Global and the Associated Press and with the fall fair, helping them set up and you just, you know, seeing all the different, you know, the different things like the ball that, like, I mean, I've run a provincial hockey tournament. I know what it takes, and like to have all the volunteers and with the old time jamboree, my mother and grandmother, they run the ones in Elk Point, but there's a little more downscale, like it's just local performers that come but they do that every 2 months. They have a night, and it's just for that half hour I was there, it was just like, holy cow. And of course, it was interesting because they had half the stage blocked off, and I'm kind of going, well, you know, that's a pretty big stage. I mean, there's lots of room, and then I realized that they're setting up the next band on the other half of it. It just got, I mean, this just the whole activity and the car show, like with Neil, you know, the work that goes into it, the drag races, and just as Kim mentioned, it was such a busy week, busy summer, like. The cornhole tournament, and then we had even if you take it one step further. We had Little Britches Rodeo on our handhills, we had Old Girls Rodeo at Serial, we had, just everything that goes on in the area, and. Until you get pulled in multiple directions, you kind of go, holy cow, and it's interesting, it's
Yeah.
good, in Canada Day, I met a couple that come, or well, actually a young family that come out of Strathmore. To come to Hannah for Canada Day, we were seeking shelter in the shade, and they come every year. And they said, you're the mayor, right? Yeah, and so I say, you are, and they're from Strathmore, and they come to Hannah for Canada Day, and I'm thinking. Well, Strathmore's gotta have something Canada Day as well, but they came here, so I mean, obviously we're doing some things right, I mean, and same thing, I'm sure we have people go somewhere else for Canada Day. But yeah, just the whole scope of how busy this summer in particular has been, and maybe it's been that way in the past, but I never noticed it.
Well, we're, couple things, one, we're coming out of COVID, and it's been the first
Whole
year,
year back.
full year, no questions, no comments, no regulations, no masking, no worrying about anything, so it certainly, we had some one-offs that we probably won't have with the football game, the Can-Am Bowl.
That's another one, yeah, like,
Yeah.
even the work that went into
Yeah.
posting that, and
Well, and all the ball teams. and
Yeah.
The others.
So hopefully it's a sign to come, and we,
Yeah.
these events continue to roll, because they're good for our community, so.
well, and with the ball teams, the success that some of our ball teams had, like.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Okay,
I was just going to ask you, have you got anything about our meetings at the end of September about rooms and stuff like that yet?
Oh, for the AM conference?
Yeah.
So rooms are booked for the AM conference, for the Tuesday night, the 26th to the Friday, so at the, Sutton Hotel. District Council would have stayed there last time, and registered, 6 of 7 have registered. I know Council Works not sure about her time availability then, but 6 of 7 councilors have, we've got registered, so hotel rooms are booked. I don't know, because I register on your behalf. Do you guys get an email?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, you should all get an email confirming your registration.
Yeah.
Well, I think just your email saying that.
No, I got one from AM. as well.
AM, 7.
No, I got
I
that
think
one,
that,
but.
yeah, I think I did
nothing
get
with
one
the
from
room
AM
and
as
all.
well, yeah.
No, the rooms I have,
Yeah.
but I do have rooms booked, yeah.
And an extra just in case.
I still have an extra just in
I'm
case.
sorry. Just huge
Okay,
stretch.
no, that's good.
Okay, do we adjourn properly, normally, did you get that?
Pardon me.
We
Did
got
we?
the adjourn proper.
Did they adjourn?
Did
did
you
adjourn,
adjourn?
yeah.
Just now.
Okay.
We got shut off, I assume we adjourned.
No, you're still going.
Still going,
Oh.
okay. There we go.
You
Does
need
the
to-
council
Adjournment.
provide planter pots for in front of business?